First item on the agenda by the city clerk is roll call.
Councilmember Oliva,
Present.
Councilmember Jackson,
Here.
Mayor Silva,
Present?
and Mayor Garcia, and Councilmember Villegas-Walker are absent tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell. We'll have Councilmember Jackson lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Councilmember Olivas lead us in the invocation, please.
Please join me in saluting our country and our flag. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing. Bow your heads, please. Lord, thank you for your gifts. Thank you for allowing us to be here. I hope and pray that you cast wisdom upon our leaders here to do your work, the people's work. And I hope and pray that we are thankful every day for your blessings. Amen.
Before we proceed, I'd like to say for the record that this is a public meeting. If there's an item on the agenda in which you wish to be heard, you're asked to complete a blue speaker slip and submit it to the city clerk prior to the start of the meeting. Persons wishing to address the council are not required to identify themselves. However, this information assists the mayor by ensuring that all persons wishing to address the council are recognized and also assist the city clerk in preparing the city council meeting minutes. When the item is announced and your name is called by the mayor, please step to the podium and state your name for the record. Unless the mayor extends the time, there is a 3-minute time limit for each public presentation. If you wish to address the council concerning any other matter not appearing on the agenda, you may do so during the public comment portion of the agenda. So now we'll have a report by our city attorney on closed session discussions.
There's no reportable action, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Let's go on to, there's no announcements, there's no scheduled public comment, so I'd like the council to consider a motion to adopt the consent agenda, which includes items 1 and 2. Okay, consent agenda is passed 3-0 with 2 absence. Next item on the agenda is public hearing to solicit public input on the Community Development Block Grant 2019-2023 CDBG Consolidated Plan, and we have a presentation by Stacy Cox.
Very quick one.
Good.
There we go.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay,
A
I'm done.
motion.
Thank you. Good evening, council members and Mayor Pro Tem. As you know, as an entitlement community, not only do we go through our annual action process every year, every 5 years we have to go through a consolidated action plan, which is what we work off of for our annual action plans. And we are due for our next consolidated annual action plan for the 2019 and 2023 years, or 2019 through 2023. This is the first of 2 public hearings that we'll be bringing to council. Let me see, this one's not working. It's mainly to get input from not only council, but from also the public in general. This was a advertised public hearing. The CDBG program objectives that we have to meet with any activities that we undertake as part of the con plan process has to meet one of the national objectives. The 3 listed: benefit at least 51% low moderate income, aid in the elimination or prevention of slum or blight, or meet other community development needs. It has to meet one of those national objectives. There's a variety of eligible activities such as housing, public facilities, public infrastructure improvements, public services, economic development activities, and I've provided a few examples of what could possibly to be done under those activities. And as part of this is just a follow-up on the rest of the timeline process. We do have a second public hearing where we're going to be bringing the actual the draft consolidated plan to you on April 2nd. After that, we'll have a 30-day public comment period, at which time we'll complete the annual, consolidated plan and send it into HUD. It is due to them by May 15th. And this council, or correction, city staff would just request that you conduct this, open up the public hearing, receive any input from the public that we could use in formulating our consolidated plan for the next 5 years.
Thank you, Stacy. Before I open the public hearing, any questions, comments from the council? Yeah, Mr. Oliva?
Yes, in regards to the eligible activities for housing, is there an opportunity where these funds could be eligible for transitional housing?
The transitional housing, we have different, right now, we only do the housing rehab. We don't do rental, I think correct me if I'm wrong, we're starting to do the rental. We have availability for rental assistance, but transitional housing would fall more under the public services.
Okay.
Like the Woman Haven has some transitional housing for the homeless.
When it comes to rental assistance, if you don't mind me just saying, there was a homeless veteran that I knew, and one of his struggles was specifically because he has a pension from VA, where he struggled was that he didn't have the $25 application fee to submit an application for an apartment. To him, that was his hurdle, because after 2 or 3 or 4 places that you're applying for, and each one requires $25. So would CDBG funds be eligible for anybody who is homeless? As you said, rental assistance. I know you're probably referring to just.
That's rental rehab. We
Okay.
don't have the rental assistance. It's I stand corrected. I correct myself. It's rental rehab that we are.
More tied to the building, not the individual.
Okay.
As far, if I would encourage, I could also reach out to the veterans programs if they have any type of programs that where they can assist, and they would can certainly apply for a CDBG activity in our annual action plan process to assist with that fee or
Okay.
Any type of assistance they can provide the veterans to obtain housing.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So this is a public hearing. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Is any members of the audience that wish to provide input as it relates to our CDBG 2019-2023 consolidated plan?
Dennis, that's not what you're writing right now, are you? Pardon? Dennis, you're not wanting to talk on this? But are you here to speak on number 3?
Okay.
Okay, cool.
So seeing no one come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Any additional direction that you need?
No,
Stacy?
at this time, we just needed to have the public hearing, and as I stated, you'll be getting our draft consolidated plan for your April 2nd meeting.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Under legislative action, we have a request by our Honorable IID Director, Mr. Kuhn, to be able to speak to the council in regards to legislation that is being proposed in Sacramento. Before I ask Mr. Kuhn to speak to us, Betsy, can I ask you for the record to indicate under what jurisdiction we are able to discuss this matter?
Yes, you have a standing section on your agenda that describes legislative action. We use it when a bill comes up after the agenda goes out and needs to be addressed because the time frames in Sacramento can be rather rapid. This will be an item which is under legislative action, so the public knows that it is about legislation, and this is about AB 854.
Thank you so much. Mr. Kuhn.
And a pleasant good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. My name is Bruce Kuhn, IID Director, Division 2, on my 15th year serving the people in that capacity. Recently, we were advised that Assemblyman Mays from, I guess, Yucca Valley, he has just a small part, a small part of his constituents are in the Palm Desert, La Quinta, a very small sliver in La Quinta. Very few people that actually in his district that are impacted by anything we do up there. Anyway, he has introduced Assembly Bill 854 that would add 6 seats to our board. However, all 6 of them would be in the Riverside County. Now, this, in and of itself, opens up an absolute Pandora's box of horrible things for all of us in Imperial County. And I say that not to instill fear, but rather so people will get educated on this as to what really is at stake if they do that. First things first, one of our largest nemesis, not the largest, Met would be the largest, Metropolitan Water District, but Coachella Valley Water District has historically been a they have not acted in our best interests. They are competitors for Colorado River water. That all has been taken care of through a series of contracts through the Bureau, IID, Coachella, dating back to 1931. Now we're looking at about 87 years of contractual history here. Now, hooked to that is about 100 years of law on the river. If they get 6 members on the IID board that are from Riverside County, it will usurp the authority of the 5 from Imperial County, where our water rights are held. So, so you understand, Coachella Valley Water District does not operate in our best interest, they operate in their best interest. So if they have 6 people, the majority of the board, living there, that gives their constituents power over our water by a 6-5 vote. I can't imagine a worst-case scenario. Anywhere, anytime, for us, as long as we've been here. My family got here in 1917. My maternal grandfather helped dig that All-American Canal behind a team of mules with the old Fresno scraper. My mom lived in a covered wagon on the banks of that canal and moved as the work progressed. So it goes back way. It goes way back. And if this happens, about 87, well, by the time this thing happens, maybe 90 years of contractual obligations for Coachella through IID, through the Bureau, through the federal government could be undone. I just can't see it. And our water rights as we know them would be in horrible peril. So I'm here today to ask you to get a letter of support coming out against AB 854. It does not serve our best interest at all. In fact, it is one of the worst things I can imagine happening to us in the history of the Imperial County and the IID. Now, I'm going to ask you people, do you have any questions on what I just covered? This is really serious stuff, and it could ruin all the work that our forefathers put in this valley. That's how bad it is.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. I think for myself, it's pretty obvious of the devastating impacts of this legislation. So I firmly believe that that won't go anywhere, but I think anything that we can do to support this endeavor, I think is something that we should do. I'm going to bring it back to council and see if there's any comments from Mr. Jackson or Mr. Oliva.
Only thank you, Bruce, for bringing this in front of us. I think it's I think when you talk about the history of the Imperial Valley and you talk about our community, I think we always have known that Imperial Valley is tied to the water, and our success or our failure is tied to our water. And any potential of loss of that water would severely put this entire area in jeopardy as far as moving forward. So I appreciate you coming to this body and asking for a letter of support. I will be supporting that that request and wish you well and the IAD board in this battle that I guess you guys are going to be having to take on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oliva?
Director Kuhn, thank you for taking the time and bringing this bill to our attention. I find it interesting that a member of the Assembly that predominantly his district does not include the IAD service area is introducing this bill. I find that very curious. When I became aware of this bill, that was my first question. And so I think it's a power play. I think it's something that, to be honest, this member, in my humble opinion, has no business introducing. That's just my personal opinion. But I agree with your sentiments, and I strongly oppose this bill as introduced, and so
Thank
I
you.
will be supporting that.
I would only like to add, if the majority of the board, not from here, doesn't know our history, with no loyalty here, just remember this, 6 of them could vote another transfer without our approval. That's how serious this is. And when I first heard of this, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but the Imperial Irrigation District is the lowest power producer in the state of California, but for there's one little agency up north. It's hydro. I think they have like 4,000 clients because they don't have to purchase power to run generators. It's all hydro. They are the absolute lowest, but it's a very small. Other than that, we are the lowest by about 33 to 40%. So when I heard this, my first question was, well, what is it do they want? Because they're already getting the lowest power in the state of California. So how are you going to make that better? It's just mind-boggling. But then I heard the battle cry, no taxation without representation. And I just want you people to be well aware that is not a tax. That is not a tax. That's a fee for electricity. It's the same thing they get when they sign up with Southern California Edison up there at about 30 to 40% more than ours. It's a fee. They don't have a seat on their governing board because it's private. So I'm just curious as to what it is they really want. And I, like you, Councilman Oliva, I question the motives. Okay?
Well, I am so glad that you're here, Mr. Coonan, that the IED is being proactive, and I understand that you are requesting all the cities in the valley to produce letters of opposition to this. So and the council has been given a sample letter that I'm assuming was drafted by you. We are requesting a slight modification to that sample letter in that first paragraph where it says, the City of El Centro must respectfully oppose your AB 854. We'd like to introduce the words as introduced. And then I think the rest of the letter probably, we have a comfort level of that letter as written.
Okay.
So with that, I have a motion by Mr. Jackson and a second by Mr. Oliva to authorizing the city to draft the letter as we have expressed. Anything else, Mr. Coons?
I thank you very much for taking the
Thank you so
time to
much.
listen to me. And thanks again. And hopefully we will prevail in this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you for your efforts. Okay, so we are almost done. So we have some informational items. I know.
I want you to go keep charge.
We have an informational items. We do have a public comment. We have a request for public comments by our friend Dennis Berg. Dennis?
I know you're not prepared for this subject, but South 8th Street, Clark Road, or what do you want to call it. I serve on the Imperial County Planning Commission, and recently we approved a zone change, or a change of an area that is immediately east of that road, down by where the church was supposed to go, crossing the water plant, or very close to the water plant, for 400 houses. There's already enough houses in that area right now to deal with a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. There are accidents all the time. There were recently 2 of them in which a motorcyclist was killed, and another one in which I was there about 5 minutes after it happened, and some woman on her way to work, I guess, T-boned another car in which the front end of her car no longer existed. I'm sure the police reports have it. I've talked to a couple of police officers recently, and one of them tells me that the city does not have the funds to patrol that area or the people to patrol that area. Talked to others that suggested that I get one of these little men things that you put on the sidewalk and say children ahead or whatever with a little flag out. But the speed, I believe, on that street has been changed without a speed study. I know the city's supposed to do it one every 5 years, but I don't believe no speed study has been taking place at this time. But to go from 35 to 50 miles an hour, try to get out from those side streets, either Dannenberg, Jacaranda, whatever it is, it's very hard to get out. Tonight I had to wait quite a bit because you have cars going two or three different speeds. They're either going 35, 45, 65, and one car was going at least 70 miles an hour down the road coming into the city. You have a bottleneck at the bridge already, and a speed limit that changes after the signal. So by the time that they let off their gas and they coast over the bridge, they're still going 40 to 45 miles an hour. I've had people, when I'm coming south, have actually tried to pass other cars at the bridge. The street has become wild. My question, I realize you guys can't do anything because there's nothing on the agenda to cover the type of thing, but maybe someone needs to get with somebody in the road department. Since Terry Hagan is gone, he no longer lives out in that area, and I understand he didn't like going that slow, 35 miles an hour. My questions are this: how are you going to stop the accidents? 2 of them in the last less than 30 days. It's because of the speed on that highway or on that street. You're adding more houses all the time out there, or there will be more houses being added all the time since the zoning change has gone through. One of the questions I have is that why do we have a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit from the bridge going south, and we have a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit from Pico out to I forget what the name, Bradshaw. And it goes up to 40 miles an hour, but nobody travels 40 miles an hour or 35 miles an hour to the city anymore. They're all going 50 miles an hour already. So my question is, why do you have an area where there's not that many houses and not that many people going slow, and then you have another area that's going extremely fast?
Thank you, Mr. Burke. I'm going to ask Abraham
I was asked by somebody
to
to talk to Abraham before I should go to the city council tonight. But his comment was that suggests to Abraham that there's a cooperation between the Imperial County and the city as far as doing something about the speed. Doing a speed study or something out in there,
So-
bring
so
it up to date.
I think, Dennis, that obviously your comments are important to us.
Well, I know you're not prepared to hear what I have to say.
But I will ask Mr. Campos to perhaps set up a meeting with you to discuss this and then come back and give us a report. But Abraham, are you able to contribute in any way right now, or would you rather wait until?
Either way, I will turn my good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and council members. I'll leave him his information, I'll grab his information, we can sit down. I do want to state that we did do a traffic study. I think it's 2017, last I remember, it was adopted, approved. We modified our ordinances. Traffic studies, the way they function is you take the speed of the prevailing speed of traffic, and you take the 85th percentile. So basically, the speed that about 85% of the traffic is going. So there's some outliers. That's that 15% extra. Those are the ones that you want to ticket. But if 85% of the folks are traveling at a certain speed, that's where we go. So we do have a current adopted traffic study and an ordinance that complies. The reason why it's fast in that area is because the studies, people will travel at a reasonable speed based on the conditions. So it's a wide area, it's open, there's limited access.
So evidently, there's a housing subdivision being planned around the area. Is the addition of housing there, does that create any new variables where that speed needs to be reconsidered?
Not at the moment until the homes happen. So we don't
Even
know
with
if that
additional-
will,
with the homes you do have out there, you mean?
based on the phones, we did have a,
You can't walk on the sidewalk with it, especially like, well, not especially, but when you have a city truck going by and they're going down the waterworks and you're almost sucked out into the street. You can't walk your dog, you
Right.
can't bicycle, there's no bicycle lanes really per se.
So,
And wait a minute, and then you have a hodgepodge set of signs sitting out there that some areas, no parking, some areas parking, so you then have a car parked in the area which is, the sign is fallen down, so that they no longer have the sign up there. No parking there.
So I think, Mr. Dennis, that I don't want to go back and forth right now. So Abraham, if you can please set up some time to speak to Mr. Berg. Perhaps if there's other concerns from other neighbors, that we can kind of have a neighborhood meeting of some.
Chicken nuts come here.
Yeah, so, no, it is important. I think maybe involve our police department and find out if there's a higher propensity of accidents there. Perhaps that can be evaluated as well. So Abraham, when would you feel comfortable coming back to the council and giving us an update on any efforts that we may have to?
I think if we're gonna be coordinating with the public, it's just on their schedule. The next meeting is too short to come on, so in 30 days.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you, Dennis. All right, any additional public comments? Seeing none, I'm going to come back to the council for reports and council member reports and task force reports. Mr. Oliva, anything?
Oh, wow. Let's see. You know, I did attend the ECRMC Mardi Gras gala, and I had a good time. It was the first time I ever attended that, and I thought it was very nice. I also had the pleasure of coming out in the parade with the rest of the city, and I had a lot of fun there, and it was my first time at that as well. And so I just want to thank staff. I think they did an amazing job putting together the float and having everything ready for us, and to display something great for the city. I'm sure there was multiple departments of the city that were all hands on deck that day. And so from our public safety to our city manager's office and everything in between, I just want to say thank you for putting together something great for the community, gave the community an opportunity to come out and create some memories together, you know, see neighbors and friends and have a good time. So thank you for that. Let's see. I was able this weekend, oddly enough, to have the pleasure to meet former U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Julian Castro, in the L.A. area. He's a presidential candidate for the United States. Nice guy. I was from San Antonio, Texas. And so I was there as representing the city, just hearing what he had to say, and wishing him well.
Awesome, thank you so much. Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, real quickly, definitely want to commend our staff. The Mardi Gras festivities were amazing as usual. Our Parks and Rec staff and our city manager's office put together 2 really great floats that we got lots of compliments from the community on. The El Centro Regional Medical Center Foundation Gala was excellent as always. On a sad note, I think it's been passed around that we lost the owner of the Eucalyptus Schoolhouse a few days ago, and so that was kind of sad news. Tony had been a fixture in the community for a number of years and had done a marvelous job in renovating and bringing back the Eucalyptus Schoolhouse to its old, I guess, well, Bruce probably went to school at the Eucalyptus Schoolhouse. My mother did. I knew you'd have something for me to say. So anyways, that was some sad news. Also want to say that I participated in the Patriotic Committee's fundraiser. We sold 500 spaghetti plates and raised a little over $5,000 for the committee, and we'll be getting our 501c3 status filed, and also be assisting in some of the upcoming veteran events. I've been kind of leading the group from the city on the AV Vietnam Wall Memorial, and I had a meeting with Mr. Henderson this last week in continuing that dialogue and moving that forward. So some exciting news coming with that, and I think we're going to be talking about maybe a parade that coincides with that and bringing the wall into the city of El Centro. And I think we've talked to some of the groups like the Blue Knights and some of the other motorcycle groups that are going to participate. So looking forward to that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I think I also want to compliment staff on just an incredible job in setting up the Mardi Gras parade and festivities. That's really, one of the highlights of the whole Imperial Valley, and it was just fun. The flow was incredible, so I know how many hours were spent on that. I also attended the ACRMC gala. I think most of you guys missed the walkthrough at the Aquatic Center. That was really nice to see. Thank you, Abraham, for setting it up. Adriana, everyone that was involved, and actually seeing, it's still kind of preliminary, but just seeing the actual facilities and the pool and all that was really, really exciting. I understand that they're on schedule still. Abraham, do we have I'm sorry, I put you on the spot. What's the tentative date for completion? Right.
When you say 20-something, we're thinking years. You might want to say August of this year. Yeah, there you go. That's better. Yeah.
Awesome. So that was really special to see the facility coming together. I don't have anything else to add. Matt, are you just joining us because do you want to say anything to us? No? Awesome. All right. Okay, so we are done. You got here, Matt, and we are done.